So the concept of time as a limited and valuable resource, it's something fascinating, right? It was really the most, it's the rarest thing we can come by.
It's inherently limited
Yeah.
to no end.
So
I like you decided to do this video as I'm like 20 minutes late on my leaving
it's true.
for the road.
On your leaving for the road.
Yeah, limited time.
This is BoardGameCo. Alexander Sender Redcliffe the Third. Radcliffe the Third. You are here filming a weekend of content for Quackalope and BoardGameCo with me, and I figured I'd pull you aside and pick your brain on one very specific thing that I know you have talked about quite a bit. And it's something that I think you're probably one of the first people that I've heard very assertively talk about, the idea of doubling up on time, of valuing time, of utilizing that limited resource, what you have available to maximize fun and work and contracts and family.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to open the floor.
Sure. So I mean, I'm glad this is didn't come in prepped, but I've talked about this before, so I am prepped. But it is time, like you said, is inherently the most valuable thing you have. To a certain extent, you can free things up with tips, with tricks, efficiency, with dedicating your potentially resources. Maybe you have money, so you can potentially outsource something. Someone else can manage your
Money's
accounting.
the closest thing you can get to time.
Yeah.
You trade your time, usually in your youth, you trade your time for money. And then as you get older, hopefully you've accumulated wealth that allows you to then utilize other people's time so you can spend yours more responsibly.
And the first baseline will be, as you get enough money, you have to stop spending as much of your time earning that money.
Yeah.
Hopefully. I mean, depending on if your goals are, you might enjoy the process of working, but whatever that is.
But I'm not old yet.
You're not old yet.
And I also don't have money yet.
Age,
so right now, I'm just spending time.
Age has nothing to do with that. I mean, age has a correlation just because you've spent more of your
correlation
life
to wealth. Yes.
Then the second thing would be, if you have a further next step, you can start using that money towards hiring people to do things for you. But all that is immaterial.
But money's not the point.
Money's not the point.
Doubling up on your time is the point.
Doubling
that
up on your time.
That phrase that you like to use a lot.
It's something that I've been doing for a very long time, and I don't know when it became a conscious thought.
Okay.
At some point in the process, I realized that I was doing this, and at that point, I started trying to do it as much as possible, as opposed to incidentally. Doubling up on time is the general idea that time, like you said, is a limited resource. It's a limited commodity, inherently limited. I wish I was at the point where that money factor was not, but it is, and so we have to make use of our time as much as possible. We should always do that in all cases. Time is valuable. And to that end, I try to utilize my time in whatever areas I can to do more than one thing. Now, the most baseline way I've talked about is on the channel, my channel, BoardGameCo, where I talk about board games and all that different aspects. And a big one is going to be one of the reasons I love board games as a hobby. One of the reasons why solo games, even though I appreciate them, I don't get to the table as often, are going to be because board games are simultaneously something that is tremendously enjoyable and social. I'm already fulfilling two different things at once. I am building up my social network. I'm building up my relationships. I'm enjoying time with people. And I'm playing a board game. Playing a video game, to me, doesn't have that aspect, doesn't have that doubling up. Playing a solo game, while enjoyable and while I'll do it, doesn't have that doubling up.
And now you've sort of bridged it into that third space, where it's becoming a career or a hobby that is not only benefiting you, but generating time and resource.
And it's going to be tripling up in time to a degree. Because solo games, let's go back to solo games for a second. Now, this past year, I've been doing content creation. When I am doing content creation around a solo game,
I'm enjoying the game.
And I'm building content.
And I'm working.
And I would say 2/3 to 3/4 of my solo playing has been focused around, well, I have to get a review out. I'm going to do some sort of content around a game. And I'll still play it after because I still like the game. But it takes more time because I have to justify it more.
So the idea of, you're not quite sure where that idea came from, doubling up on time, where that concept became, official.
Something I did and realized.
Outside of this space, outside of the career that we're both in, how purposeful are you about equating time and the amount of things you're accomplishing with an action that you take? And how do you go about, as you move forward, how do you go about developing and living your life in a way that allows you to maximize time in that form, right? That concept of it.
So the general idea, the starting baseline, I think, of this conversation is you have to start by valuing your time. If you don't value something, there's no reason to try to extend it as much as possible. If you value, for instance, I value money too. And to that end, I try to make my dollar go as far as possible. I've also had conversations with people around the principle that, well, you might really enjoy insert that type of product or alcohol. Maybe you really like that alcohol. You like your $80 bottle of scotch.
Sure.
Okay, great. But what type of job are you working? Perhaps that shot you just took, and I've done this with people. That shot of alcohol you just took is 35 minutes of your work
day. I remember specifically when I got my first ever real job. Not freelancing or selling books door to door or anything like that. I'm talking Panera Bread or the cafeteria when I was 15, 16 years old. Valuable lessons for me. And one of the most tangible things I learned was that at $7 an hour, that paycheck and that day that I just worked, I very rarely spend money in my head. From a very young age, from 14, 15 years old, when I first started recognizing that time was traded for money, I started very, very quickly skipping money and equating what I'm purchasing to time. And that's how much did this just spend me?
Because money's just a medium. Money is ultimately just a medium. The time we put into that money is the valuable resource.
And so this was an hour and a half.
Yes.
Is this worth? And sometimes it is.
I have killed people's enjoyment of things, genuinely. I've done this. And I think I'm fine with that. I don't mind. You can do what you want in life, but do it with intent.
Or, for instance, the last 16 hours that we just spent filming, because of my career, because of photography, videography, and this isn't true in the board game space, but the career that I just left, I value my time at about $125 to $150 an hour. As a professional photographer, professional videographer, if I'm marketing, if I'm building wedding clienteles, that is what I could maximize. Now, I don't want to earn that constantly, but that's what I value myself at. The last 16 hours that we just spent recording, I mean, it's a worthwhile trade. But I do consciously try to equate or keep in mind what my time is worth and where that value is, right? So, I mean, and you visited me twice.
Oh, so I mean, one of the things that I did when I visited you, especially that first time I visited you, the second time less so, but still
I wasn't as big then.
So I couldn't...
Was it worth as much?
No, you
still handsome and charming, but I understand.
Handsome and charming, but I mean, gas money's gonna be one thing. But like the problem isn't the inherent whatever. The problem is that the board game space in general, content creation media, it takes a long time before you're really seeing any form of payoff. It takes years. We've talked about this in other videos about like how it's a 5-10 year journey. And the idea that we'll do a collaboration, we'll get a few more subs, we'll get a few more views. Like, okay, great. That doesn't pay for $100 plus of gas money, as well as 12 hours.
6 hours driving, 12 hours. Yes, 12 hours total.
And so what I did was
just the time of doing.
Yeah, the time of doing. Here. Well, so the time of doing, I can justify that more because the time of doing is fun.
It is fun and content.
And content. It's checking off 3 boxes. So even if you've ignored the content, it's already fun and social. So I can justify that far easier. So what I did was I called up my business partner in BoardGameCo, the retail operation, and I said, "Hey, we're overdue for a long conversation. Do you want to hop on the phone for a bit here and there?" And we scheduled a overdue call about how to like manage different operations. We just like once every like 3-4 months or whatnot, try to catch up, manage, plan for the future and all that. And in about 20 minutes, I'm gonna continue that conversation again because double up on your time. Now, doubling up your time can be whatever you want. If you are someone who enjoys listening to music while driving, and I know to a certain extent we both do.
I do as well. I genuinely enjoy some of the road trips I take, not because the time is well spent in terms of business or anything, but I process.
Zen.
I think, I'm moving, and that is valuable.
The goal in general is just the idea of
it's a purposefulness.
Valuing
is what I'm
time and purposeless. Exactly, purposeless. Wasting time. For instance, there are a handful of things that I want to change about my life right now. One of them is I want to get my weight a little bit under control. I feel like I'm always like playing that game, and that's one thing I want to focus on. The other one that I am always very, very upset at myself for, because I feel it's something that I just let it go, is every night when I'm done for bed, I pull out my phone, and I spend about 20 minutes just browsing things with no intent. You want to be on Facebook, be on Facebook.
Intent's the question.
Be on Facebook with intent. Not because I'm trying to burn time. When I wake up in the morning, I grab my phone, and I start browsing notifications. And it's not just notifications that get out of the way, fine, no problem. I then continue after the notifications are done. It's about 30 minutes a day I am wasting. Absolutely wasting, because it is not done with intent. It is stuff that I'm doing to fill time, to extend the process of being in bed, not going to sleep, not getting out of bed. That's a waste. I really, that's like one
and
of
that's the key. I don't begrudge people for watching TV shows.
No.
I don't begrudge people for wanting to take a moment to relax on YouTube, to go listen to music, go for a long walk. These are things I personally do. But one of the things is I begrudge myself when I do those things without a conscious choice to do them, because I don't actually reap the benefit that I needed from them.
Speaking of YouTube, one of the things that I find baffling, it's such a huge feature of YouTube, it's such a huge thing about how people get discovered and all these things, but the idea of autoplay to the next video, I don't autoplay to the next video. I watch the videos I want to watch. I spend hours a day watching YouTube in the
Sure.
background while working,
Sure.
doubling up on time again.
Yeah.
I have those things in the background. I'm working.
I
have
do
them on.
autoplay, but usually those recommendations are within the lineage of what I want to listen
If
to.
within 3 seconds it delivers a video that is genuinely something I want, I'm on it.
Okay.
If it happens to pull up some sort of video from like 2 months ago that I had no intention of watching, it doesn't call my attention immediately.
Sure, of course.
Like, well, what? I think it's fine. I can let it go, but it's not what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be, again, it's gonna be true to a variety of different things. I apply to, like I said, the travel, the trip here, double up my time. I apply to any form of gaming, which can be 1, 2, or 3 things depending on for content creation, fun, and social. Could check any of those boxes. I apply the same thing to my relationship with my wife. I like to spend time with my wife, and I like to play board games with my wife. And again, it's doubling up again time. And now because I have to get a review out on a certain game, so I can play a game with my wife, enjoy the social aspect, enjoy the game, and get content creation. In terms of anything, spending time with friends, spending time at date night, any of these things.
So let me ask you this, and I think I have 2 maybe points that we could boil down from what you've talked about, and I find this fascinating. With the concept of doubling up time, if someone wanted to start being more purposeful with time, start thinking about it as a resource, right? What would be 1 or 2 action points that they could do to start that process? What has benefited you in terms of making the most value of the time that you have, that limited resource?
So I think before we get there, it's a good question, but the first baseline is your time valuable to you? Not in a generic, well, of course, yes answer, but think about it. Practically speaking, for myself, that half an hour a day I waste, a little bit at night, a little bit in the morning, I am full of things I could be doing with that time.
Sure.
If you are not at that point, if you haven't found something that is constantly driving you forward, maybe it's kids, family, jobs, maybe it's a side gig, maybe whatever, a hobby, whatever it is. If you can't think of what you would fill your time with if you freed up more time, then this conversation isn't the right conversation for you.
It's fair.
Now, I'd imagine most people do think that they need more time. Most people do have that.
Yes.
So as far as being more purposeful, the first starting point is, I think, at least for me, identifying those times that are wastage. Before we even try to figure out how to be more efficient, figure out where you're wasting. It's one thing to say, listen, I need to get more things into the day, so I will combine gaming with social so I can get more done. That's a reasonable conversation. But why don't you start by purging the aspects of your day that are just not there? I have the conversation with a lot of people who are in the same space in my life with me, people who have 4 kids, people who are in the same idea as I am, and sometimes they don't seem to have time for many of the things that I do.
Sure.
And I'm like, walk me through your day. Tell me how this plays out. And they're not cramming it in, which is fine. That might be a value system. Maybe the value system is, I don't want to constantly be doing things that are purposeful.
That's the trick for me, though. It's not about working all the time. We work all the time, but it's not about that.
Yeah.
I have fun all the time.
I have fun scheduled.
But along with that, and it's not about scheduling things all the time. I'm not as scheduled as you.
You're not. That's right.
But I'm learning to be as organized and purposeful as you without having that overriding schedule, because it's not how I operate, right?
Yeah.
Different types of approach to the same goal. It is about being purposeful. If you want to relax for an hour, then do that. But make that choice. I play VR. Yes. I double up on my time with VR.
It's fun.
It is workout. It is fun. It gets me moving. It's a different operating system than sitting here in front of the...
Yeah.
But I do that for a reason. I don't sit down and play 3 hours of VR for an ambient sense of escape.
Yeah.
Instead, I'm saying, I'm choosing to do this. This benefits me in a series of ways, and I double up on my time when I do it.
Yeah. And
so
that's the second thing. So
I would encourage people to do the math as my first thing. You're talking about establishing and figuring out where you might be wasting time.
Yeah.
But back to that identifying how much your time is worth. I did so very young. I did so very early. But if you haven't taken the time to jot down the notes just very quickly, what are you earning? What is your return on investment? How many hours are you spending? And do the math on what your time is currently valued at, and do the math personally, internally, at what your time should be valued at. I mean, realistically, most people's time, most humans' time, especially here in the States, is anywhere from $35 to $50 an hour of value. That is, if you pursued and built a career of your own, you should be able to get a return on investment around that point. The question is how and what do you enjoy doing, but that's where the math works out.
Yeah.
So if you're wasting, 20, 30 hours a week, you're losing $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year.
Yes.
Maybe that's worth it. Oftentimes it's not. And when you know that number, things start shifting.
Yeah.
But the second point.
Second point's going to be figure out what you're doing, what you want to do, and where those areas have overlap. So some of these things we're already doing, but like something I talked about already, for instance, I like the idea of playing video games. Over the past year, I've only added to my schedule. And I don't play video games a lot, but it's something, a new game, like Far Cry 6 will come out, and it's a game I've been playing for a long time. I've always played a new one.
Last of Us, Bioshock, those are titles that I really want to experience.
But each one can be 30 to 50 hours of time.
That's a lot of time.
And I've only been packing my life more as the past years have been going on. And so I don't know how to justify that. And so there's two ways I justify it. Way one is just going to be in and of itself. I will spend 10 minutes at a time playing Bioshock. I've been slowly catching up Bioshock. I've been going through it at roughly 15 minutes to half an hour a week. That's what I've been going through. I'm like through the first level by now, since I last talked about 3-4 weeks about this. Because I'm trying to like slowly do it, but I don't have that much relaxation time. And so that's where I get there. The second area is, okay, great. Well, I do content creation. Maybe I'll start streaming it on Twitch or something and double up on that time. And so for right now, I've pushed that off because the mental work involved in starting it versus the amount of time I'm willing to put into right now is not there. But it's a thought process.
How can I justify the thing I want to do by being purposeful and utilizing the time?
Yes.
Yeah.
Find those overlaps. And a lot of them there will be overlaps. You just, literally, if you can't think it through, start by writing down what you're doing throughout the week, what it is you want to be doing, and just find areas where those can cross around. They can be anything. You want to spend more time with your spouse, but you also need to do household chores. Start by doing them together.
Turn on music, celebrate a little bit, and clean the kitchen.
I have danced with my wife in the kitchen while cleaning.
And it can be fun.
Yeah, Rob Thomas, that's our jam. We like it. Yeah. We throw it on the background, and we'll do some chores, cleaning up together.
Give a little spin to each other as you're passing. Yeah,
now, cleaning is not fun. It's not.
No.
But it has to be done, and suddenly you've just crossed two different things.
I listen to podcasts, audiobooks, stories while I clean. I mean, I'm consuming content every second of the day, and that's because I value that time that's being spent doing something that I don't really want to do, but I have to.
Like, I do that in the background all day. I'm always listening to YouTubers, not from a stance of anything else, but from a stance of I do content creation. I like to know the space I'm in. So I always used to watch certain channels. Now I watch more channels. And I do it while I'm working. I don't ever sit down from the screen and just watch a channel. Your videos are fun. They're not that fun.
Sure.
I work.
Whoa, excuse you. Excuse you. Now, but multitasking is another conversation that we'll have at another point. But talking about valuing time, you need to get on the road.
Perhaps.
We're already a little bit beyond where that point is, so I appreciate you being here. We're going to be doing more of these. If you enjoy a conversation about this, things from people that I can learn from and am learning from, let me know. Hopefully we'll be doing a significant amount of more of these, because I know I'm fascinating and interesting, but there's so much more to learn from a variety of other people. So, all that being said, I cannot reach the camera, so we'll just...
Yeah, you're sitting on the wrong seat.